Really, I feel for the QAnon fanaticists. Their entire world is falling apart at this point. The entire 4 years of the Trump presidency came and went, and the supposed shadow government, the supposed swamp that this conspiracy was saying was going to be defeated by Trump and soundly arrested and brought to justice, just never materialized. The plan, as they call it, is clearly a farce, and they've been carried along on a string. It's sad, really. I feel bad for the people that are now being brought into the truth and realizing that this was all a fantasy from the start. It's got to be crushing for the ego and crushing for just the people that have basically ruined their lives over this. This is the story of a lot of people who have alienated their friends, their family, their colleagues, everyone that they know, because they feel like that they've got some truth that nobody else has, that makes them feel special, that makes them feel like they know better than everyone else. And so the people that don't know this thing, this special knowledge that they alone have been granted, well, they're clearly wrong. They're then the enemy. And when they try and intervene, and when they mean well to try and to break people out of this cult-like attitude, well, there's some hostility, of course. They're trying to defend themselves. They're trying to defend their own worldview from this perceived attack. But how did it get this bad? I think a large part of the answer to these questions involves the narrative construction of reality. Human beings, we use narrative to construct our worldview. If you're presented with a series of facts, say a list of nouns or something, say the list of the planets, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, etc., it can be somewhat difficult to memorize these things. Just cognitively, we don't have the capacity to easily compute that kind of information. But if it's put into a narrative, it's encoded into a different form. It uses a different cognitive area of the brain that is better equipped to be able to remember things. My very excellent mother just baked us, etc., etc. The reason why it's easier to remember this, rather than just the list of nouns, is that it's got a temporal component included with it. As well, there's a social component embedded in it. We are very good at recognizing faces. We're very good at recognizing patterns of social interactions. This has a survival benefit for our ancestors on the plains of Africa, where if we are well connected to our tribe, if we're well connected to the people that are, protecting our lives, we're going to be much better off than if we're loners, if we're not able to compute the social interactions around us. There's special areas of our brain that just do that part. We have areas of our brain that are just able to process faces, just able to process names, just able to process the emotional content that passes between people. So narrative encodes a personal component as well as a temporal component to information. This allows it to be memorized not just in one way, not just by memorizing the list of nouns, but in 3 ways, and possibly more ways. Narrative is a powerful thing because it sets out the framework of a reality. This isn't just about memorizing a series of facts. It's not just about getting across an idea. It's more like setting the parameters for reality. The dominant narratives of a culture tend to set the worldview for the people that live within it. And for most traditional cultures, this involves some form of mythology. For the Christian culture, or for Christian-based cultures, the stories from the Bible and the redemption narrative, the rebirth narrative of the Jesus story, tends to underlie a lot of what Christian culture involves. Similarly, for other religions in other times, the Roman people back in the early days of human civilization, they framed things in terms of the polytheistic gods of the pantheon. In this polytheistic framework, the narratives of the interactions between the gods tends to set the stage for the way that humans interact, and this explains the way that the world is. This explanatory power tends to set the way that we think about the world and can carry some information that's implied without being explicitly stated. The use of parables can lay down moral norms and ethical rules to follow in order to be behaving in a pro-social manner. Cautionary tales and inspiring heroic tales can allow people to grow into healthy citizens that are well socially integrated into any given civilization. But this does have a dark side. Narrative can be hijacked. It can be made to mean basically anything you want it to mean, and it can encode information that is latent rather than explicit. The QAnon narrative and similar conspiracy fantasies exploits this effect. This mysterious figure of Q who seems to have information that no idea how they have it, and they share this information with this select group of people on this internet forum. The people on the internet forum, well, they're feeling lost and dejected because this world isn't particularly good for feeling connected to things. A lot of us, I think, feel disconnected from our world, from the power to exercise agency over the world. We don't have the capacity to do whatever it is we please. We're kind of stuck in the system, stuck without any real access, any meaningful access to government or to economy or to even our own lives. So when someone's offering this ability to know things that you're supposedly not supposed to be able to know, something that feels empowering, it's very tempting. It's very enticing. For those who don't know, the QAnon narrative basically involves this shadow government, the shadowy them that are in control of everything, the swamp, as Donald Trump has called it. And in this QAnon narrative, Donald Trump is the hero of the story. He's the one that is going to lead the charge against these nasty, awful, no good, evil people who are behind all the bad things in the world and are also secret pedophiles who are harvesting what's called adrenochrome from young people to enable immortality for these evil, awful people and awful, evil other things that are happening. It's very cartoon villain-ish. So, of course, the theory goes that if we just defeat these evil, awful people, then the world will be fine again. This is empowering, of course. It allows the people that believe in this thing to see the complex and multifaceted problems of the world in a simple way. If we just knock off these people, well, everything will be fine now. And it also offers a measure of hope. Because yes, Donald Trump is in the White House, and there's a plan. There's a plan in place, and then the arrests will come, and then we'll be able to haul these people off, and then I'll feel safe in my world again. But of course, the problem with prophecies is that when they don't come true, they're a little bit disappointing. And this leads to this escalating magical thinking where each prophecy is then followed by another prophecy. Oh, well, that prophecy didn't completely come true, and that's because of extenuating circumstances, so there's this other prophecy, and it's coming, and then 4 years passes, and Donald Trump isn't the president anymore, and the massive arrests never happened, and oh. Imagine the shock and horror of someone that was utterly convinced of this narrative, that they had bought into this so heavily that not only did they buy the t-shirt, they alienated their friends, their family, their relatives. All the people in their lives have been shut out, pushed away because they're part of the bad guy team. They don't believe in this Q narrative, so therefore they're protecting the swamp. They're protecting these evil pedophiles who are controlling the world and making our lives a living hell. But it turns out that was never the case in the first place. Whereas the conspiracy fantasy has complex problems with simple solutions, the reality is that it's actually a simple problem, but the solution is incredibly complex. This is one of the great dangers of the hero narrative or even the great man theory of history. When we start thinking about the world as being having been built by great people, special people in isolation, then we leave out a lot of the complexity. We miss the nuance in the world and all the people that stand behind the people whose names we know. We like to think that it's these incredible smart people like Albert Einstein or Nikola Tesla that built the modern world, and it's them alone, and without them, we wouldn't have the magic that we have today. But all these people had assistants in their path. They metaphorically stood on the shoulders of giants as they came to their rise. All the science that came before them, all of the advancements that came before them, and also all of their assistants, all the people that we don't know their names, but they worked in the lab. They worked in they helped these people develop the theories and the plans that they had. So whereas the QAnon people believed that it's Hillary Clinton's fault, it's so on and so forth's fault, they left out all of the other people that helped to create the problems that we're now experiencing. But the same could actually be said about Donald Trump as well. And this is why I'm so cautious about thinking that Donald Trump is the problem, capital T, capital P. It's not his problem. He's a product of a problematic system. And so getting rid of Donald Trump, although it's a great thing, it doesn't get rid of the problem that created Donald Trump. And the same can be said of QAnon. Even though that movement is now collapsing, another movement will come to take its place. And for that matter, it'll mutate. It'll turn into something potentially even worse. The problems that generated this movement are not going away. If anything, they're getting stronger. There will be a costume change, it will come back in a different form, and we'll be stuck with another set of conspiracy theories that will turn into another uprising of populism. Narratives are handy ways to understand a complex world in a simple fashion. Cognitively, we're very limited in terms of what we can understand and what we can process. Evolutionarily speaking, we only really are built for tribal life in a pre-civilized world. We're running civilization software on this tribal hardware. It's difficult for us to even imagine billions of people living together on a planet in a complicated, interconnected system of people and machines and animals and biosystems that all work together to generate the world that we have now. So it's very tempting to believe in these simplified narratives to make it work. And yes, narratives can be useful in that respect, but we have to be very careful and cautious about not believing that these narratives are the be-all and end-all. They don't exhaustively describe the world. They just help us to understand in an analog the way that the world is. We have the ability to choose the narratives that we follow. We're not stuck into the standard narrative of society that we're handed. The way that we're programmed in school and by literature, the media, we don't have to stick by that. But it's very difficult to break out of the biases that we're taught. It's common knowledge. It's just common practice, common sense that generates the world that exists right now, but we have the option of thinking about it differently. If we exercise this option just by suspending these narratives, by starting to look beyond the stories that we're told and how we're told to believe the world exists, then we can start to think of an entirely different kind of world, a world that isn't stuck into these small little confines. If we keep thinking and we keep exploring alternatives, maybe we could actually have a different world, a better world that doesn't have these complex problems that apparently have simple solutions. So start thinking complexly. There is a lot to be thought about. Anyway, I do these videos daily. If you enjoy my content, definitely subscribe and feel free to like the video. It'll help the channel. And share it with your friends. I'm trying to build an audience here, and hopefully you can help with that. So thanks again. Thanks for watching, and see you tomorrow.